how long have you been investing in early stage?
In early stage, I started a fund in Bend in 2013, and we made our first investment in 2014.
Okay. So
So wow,
almost a decade.
Yeah, 10 years.
We've been talking with a variety of early stage startups and people. What do you look for? Like when people when you're watching these pitches, you're meeting people, you're talking, what is it that you're looking for in a founder?
That's such a great question, Jake. We look for a combination of things. So early stage, there isn't much company to evaluate, right?
Yeah.
We can get some idea of the market.
Mm-hmm.
We can get some idea about the early product, but it is so dependent on the founders. And so we're looking for a combination of persistence and humility. Because you have to be humble, in our estimation, to actually take in enough information quickly enough to make it happen, and then you have to be persistent to execute. So that's one of the things that those are a couple of things that we look for, and some grit.
It's almost like humility because you're gonna fail, right?
Yeah, every day.
Like as a founder, it's basically signing up to fail.
You know, that's such an interesting thing. It's actually true, and I think if we knew how hard it was going to be when we started these things, we never would. It's like in a way, funds are not often considered startups, but I went through that same cycle where every day, building this thing was a massive effort, and I have a lot of empathy for founders and love for founders because, you meet a lot of the people that are here today, and they're optimistic, they're trying to build a better future, they're doing really interesting things, and I think it's a good thing.
So persistence and humility, interesting. It's maybe not the note that people would expect, but you're going like, hey, when it's so founder-centric and you're looking for that, what do you feel like some of the misconceptions about being a founder? What are some of the things that people misunderstand of this is what's needed in kind of a profile?
With a successful founder or with founders in general?
Let's go successful.
Okay. So with successful founders, I think sometimes people look from the outside and they say, wow, they take so many risks. The successful founders aren't actually they're taking something that looks like a risk, but it's considered.
Yes, calculated risks.
Yes, it doesn't even sometimes look calculated though. It's just a way of getting from risk to solution really quickly and converting it into an opportunity. So
where do you see most people getting hung up in the process? That's what successful is. Unsuccessful. Where are those pitfalls?
I think the reason it's easy to be unsuccessful as a founder is the number of opportunities that you have to sort and how many hats you have to wear. Yeah. So at some point you might be sitting down, on the floor organizing something, and then 20 minutes later you're dealing with an employee challenge, then a customer challenge, then you got to talk to an investor. It's just, it's massive and it's quick, right? If companies are going to accelerate as quickly as they need to, people have to have that acumen to be able to make decisions and sort. And a lot of that is collecting good enough information in the first place to make the decision. And those kinds of things can be time consuming, right? But in a founder startup environment, you've got to move pretty quickly.
Yeah. Seems like intuition plays a big, you're not having a ton of time to stress test everything, and so you're like, is it expertise in an area, or is it hey, just intuitively, someone has a sense of how this can work and sees the pathway? Yeah,
I think it's different things for different founders. Yeah. But if we think about it, there's intuition and or instinct that people follow to a certain extent. Here's the thing that I think of a lot, and I've seen a lot of it this week, is you can be really good at something. You can be an artist and a technician. You could be even an executive in a company. Starting a company with that idea and actually running a business are two different things, right? So you have to get really good at running a business, or your idea will flail,
Yeah.
right? And so many basic things like cash management and time management and people management come into the picture. And I went through that myself as a younger entrepreneur when I started my first company. I'd been a successful account manager, a sales VP, sales executive, and then a CEO of a small company. And what I learned in being the CEO of a small company was all of those basics. So one of the things that we also see is if we see a team where the team has done this before, so they've seen the movie, and they're in an adjacent marketplace of some kind or adjacent world, there's an interesting equation for potential success because the people have been through.
So are you looking for those people that's like, hey, this is their second time around? Because it seems like founders get addicted to starting things.
Yes, they do. Even when they're wildly successful, it's weird. It's like we can't stop.
And you just go back to like, let me just grind on this
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. It's like I got to figure something. How do I, and like I'm always trying to figure out how to make things better. It's just it's a mindset. I think it's a growth mindset in a way, and also problem solving mindset. But yeah, I think so. We look for that. That's a really easy thing to get your head around. But we also look for people that are sort of off anti-pattern, let's say.
Yeah.
So, for example, a company like Slumberkins, where it was two women that came out of education and therapy, started this company, and they've done well.
You've done amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And other companies like that where you can kind of see that they've got the persistence to do it, and the idea has a large market, and they've got the beginning of the product. So we try to keep our eyes wide open because we also think that the more of every kind of diversity that there is in a portfolio, the stronger the performance will be. That's it's a thing that we believe in. It's part of our thesis, right? So we look and
you invest across sectors then. I mean, it's not just tech.
It's primarily tech, and about 10% consumer brands.
Okay.
And in tech, we don't do hardware. We do mostly SaaS, so really capital efficient companies.
Yeah. I want to go back to something you said earlier on entrepreneurs changing the world, bringing in good. Reminds me of, we interviewed David Howett, who wrote Heed Your Call. And his kind of take was entrepreneurs are the modern day heroes.
Yeah.
Like full tilt.
Yeah.
Like they're the ones changing the world.
Yeah.
I wonder if you just kind of elaborate on why you're investing your time, resource, energy into like supporting. You're really good at like connecting with individual founders and funders and making them feel loved even, just saying, hey, like we really believe in what you're doing, and why do you think it's so valuable? What do you see from it?
Well, that's such a great question. And I've been thinking a lot about it because I've been doing it for a long time, and it can be challenging not to get jaded. Yeah. Because you hear things all over and over and over again that are similar, and there's money involved, and there's contracts involved, and it's a really tough business in that sense. But if you're asking me individually what drives me, I am interested in there being more love and kindness in the world, and I feel very pragmatic about it. And one way to do it is to invest in people that are accelerating innovation and also support them in developing as leaders and as business people, and then also looking to a better future. So that is probably just the right equation for somebody like me. And I've been a business person my whole career, an entrepreneur. So I just think that is it's like fuel for me. Yeah. So if I can meet somebody and we can, Robert and I, my business partner and I, can meet a company, meet the founders, get a sense that it's a good bet to make, that it's a good investment to make. If there's a way that I can assist them through money, support, Call us when you have a bad day is one of the things we do, because a lot of entrepreneurs are scared to call their investors, and they're not scared to call Robert and I, because we've both been operators, right? And that is a way to open the way for more good to happen, whether it's a financial return or other, because in the end, that's what we're measured by, right? We're measured by, is there a financial return from the portfolio? But I think we can do a lot of good along the way with that too. And so that's my story.
Driving. I love that. Kaylee, who's one of the founders of Slumberkins, she showed me like this rock or something. It was like something that you gave her early on.
Yeah.
And I remember that going like, that for someone who's an investor in your company, that's a really like personal, cool thing. That's like, I don't even remember what it was. It was just this thing that she carried around that was like.
When I started the fund, a friend of mine gave me this. It's like an old antique domino.
Okay.
And on the back of it was painted a brave bot.
Brave bot. I was gonna say bot, but I was like, couldn't be bot.
And I, when they were first starting, I just had an instinct or an intuition that it would be really great for Kaylee to have the brave bot as they were getting going, and so I gave it to her.
That's so cool. I love that level of detail and intention, and it shows through in what you're doing. And I think trying to not get jaded about anything is hard, but I think business is one of those things where it's like, hey, business could do a lot of good. I mean, that's what the stories we're hearing here of like people figuring out how to reduce waste, how to like solve a lot of really big problems, and business is a great way to do that. And like, let's get a better tomorrow, let's get a better future, and business is what drives stuff. So.
Well, I think it's really important not to mistake kindness and respect for naivete.
Yeah.
It's like, don't kid a kidder. It's like, sometimes people will view me as being naive, and I am not naive. I've been around the block, right? And so we see these tough situations with companies, with people, with money. And, our job as investors, we're not activist investors, we're active. So our job, because we're at the early stage, we're trying to help companies accelerate through to their success. It takes, some patience, and there's a human element to it, right?
Love that. Well, thanks for talking with us. This was great.
Totally impromptu. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Super valuable. A lot of people watching it, so good.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Done.
you.
Wrap.